Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. Guys, we got a great show for you today. I am Mike from Comic Book Corner 2.0, Mike Spider Slayer, of course. And the one that's in charge of the news is Cat Comic Uno.
Hey guys, what is up? But this week we'll be doing comics first, so we're switching up every other week. So
That's right. And then, of course, next to me, the man that holds it all together is Brant Fowler. What's up, Brant?
What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing?
So we're, like I said, we got a great show for you guys today. We're going to get to that DC news in a little bit. Every other week we alternate between the news, and then we're going to talk about, the comics and all that other stuff. So today we're kicking it off with the comics. And guys, feel free to ask any questions anytime. We'll get to as many questions and comments as much as possible. Support the channel. Give this stream a thumbs up. Let people know that it exists out there in the YouTube world, of course. And let's get into it, kicking it off with these comic books this week. So, yes, there are spoilers. So, for whatever reason, if you didn't read this week's books yet, you're just going to have to tune out. But let's kick it off here talking about the Fantastic Four, the Reckoning War, Alpha, issue 1. It's such a long name. So brand new event, Fantastic Four event. I read this book. I thought it was okay, but I just thought Dan Slott did this huge informational dump, and I felt like he repeated himself over and over again about what the Reckoning War was, whether it was the Watcher explaining it, whether it was Reed Richards, the Watcher, explaining it, whether it was Nick Fury explaining it. It's like you must have heard what the Reckoning War was like 3 separate times. And I feel like this is a book that I still want to read, and hopefully it kind of simmers down a little bit. But it was okay for me. It just didn't blow me out of the water. It was just too much. You get the moon that blows up right from the start, and and then it's nonstop from there.
I like the ending. What are you gonna say, Brent?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I like the ending, but I was bored for most of the book. I'm more curious to see how it affects the main Fantastic Four series. This just felt like an event, just an event. That's it. Like your regular event. Like it's just action heavy. There wasn't much character development, which was weird because I feel like that's what Dan Slott's Fantastic Four run has been really great about.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It was, I don't want to say it was all over the place, but there was so much going on, and I didn't feel like the dialogue was as strong in this series as it is in Fantastic Four. And I don't know, everything felt a little bit off, a little bit, for lack of a better term, rushed.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kat.
It just felt like it was too much, right?
Yeah, it was just like, okay, we got this event coming, so let's just like slam everything you need to know into your brain right now. And, keep driving that home. And this is what this is. And yeah, it's, I don't know. It didn't really blow me away. So,
yeah.
Which I'm disappointed with. We were both anticipating. Well, all of us were anticipating.
Yeah. It's just, there was just too much. I just felt like, it started off with like, I would have been fine if they just explored the whole Watchers gathering together and getting ready for this event that was about to happen. And then you wind up getting the moon exploding. And if we got to that, I would have been just perfectly fine with that and seeing things develop throughout the Fantastic Four books where this series continues. But it's just like it felt like a rush job. So I don't know if that was Slott intended that or if there was an editorial thing, but I don't know. We'll see. I think we need more of this story to make a determination of how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, and again, we talked about this last week with continuity in Marvel right now. It's like so all over the place, and all the characters that were in this, Avengers, X-Men, etc. And it's like, wait a minute, we just saw a bunch of these in that thing, and then we just saw a bunch of these in that thing. When in the world is this taking place, and how are all these people in 4 different places at once? So,
yeah.
We do have a couple of questions here. So I'm going to start with Tevia's. Any opinion on DC Comics sales not doing well and people saying Superman Son of Kal-El isn't doing well sales-wise? Well, those people are liars and most likely homophobic because especially the book that The Kiss happened sold so well that they reprinted like 5 times. They reprinted it so much. In the book, like the other issues were selling so well, they had to reprint the old issues. So Superman Son of Kal-El is doing fine, so don't listen to them. And Tom Taylor has said it himself. He's like, oh, what can you do? Like when you have top 10 books of the month and still people think the book's not selling well. And for DC, I haven't heard that they haven't been selling well. I mean, we still have the complaint that it's only Batman books, but I think they're selling fine. There hasn't been like, oh, DC's doing badly.
I've heard differently though too, and I've seen some things
for the
too.
DC Comics.
Yeah, it's if it's not Batman, there's no other books in the top 50 that have been selling.
Oh yeah, no, that is true. But also the only books that they are selling are Batman.
Correct. Yeah, and that's the issue there. I think maybe that's what he means there. So I think Superman was one of those books, and there was maybe one other book that.
But Superman was selling
50.
well though. Do they mean just this month? Because
since
Superman,
since that
Kiss issue.
Since the Kiss issue, this I think is the most recent, maybe sales data or whatnot. But it's true. I mean, we talked about, and we'll talk about it more when we get to the Crisis event. You know, when we talk about that event, we'll go in more into, I think, DC discussion. So a little bit later on that. So what were the other questions?
Well, I mean,
the other one,
if I can add something to that.
Oh, sorry, Brad.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. With Superman Son of Kal-El, I don't know. I haven't looked at sales numbers and stuff like that. I don't know where things are at, but I know that we've talked about from a story perspective since that issue, the story kind of veered off and did this weird thing, and that we weren't enjoying as much, and that could have caused a dip in the sales. That's all.
Well, especially because the arc itself has not been the main plot. It was like an Aquaman arc. So, and that's, like you said, coming from people who actually liked Superman beforehand, the John Kent stuff. So, again, I saw Tom Taylor mention about the sales recently, like in a week or two. So I feel like he's got to know a little bit about the sales of his own book. So I think Superman's probably doing fine. I do agree that the DC comics in general have not been selling well outside of Batman, but like I just said, there are only Batman books out. So what is it? Wonder Girl and Wonder Woman? Like those books. What other books exist outside of Batman now?
The Aquaman miniseries and stuff like that. Yeah.
Deathstroke Inc. I mean, and
there's a few.
Yeah,
a handful.
So little.
Yeah, right.
You know, when was the last time you saw a Firestorm book?
Right?
Well, the last time was when it failed for the New 52. I think it did so badly that they canceled it right away.
Did it come out for New 52?
Yeah, New 52. They had definitely had a Firestorm. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 8 issues. It was one of those like one of the first wave cuts. Like they cut like 10 books.
Blue Beetle.
That first wave.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All
right. OMAC. Yeah, stuff like that.
Still want it back.
Yeah, no, I would love to see Firestorm. I think it'd be an interesting character, but it goes back to, does a character like Firestorm sell? But I think a character like Firestorm sells with a good writer and a good name. So if you get like Brian K. Vaughan on Firestorm, people will probably pick it up, you know?
That's it. Did anybody ever think a Vision book would sell? And Tom King did a great Vision book, and it sold. You know, it like you said, Kat, if you got the right writer, artist, and story concept, then you've got a winner. No matter what the character is.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's been the biggest problem with DC recently. And again, we'll go into more bigger topic with DC with its Crisis event, is that it's spinning its wheels. And I'm not saying Marvel's not doing the same thing. I feel like Devil's Reign should be so much better than it actually is. And that feels like it's spinning its wheels. But where's the originality? Where is the Immortal Hulks? Where is the Nightwings? Where are these like distinct flavorful runs that I feel like, you know, in the era of Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, we had plenty of, and now we get maybe one out of how many titles?
Right. I mean, I can honestly say that even though Marvel is not perfect, right, I want to give them credit in at least still coming out with titles with different characters. right? They may not be all that great, but at least they're continuing to put out different products, and they're not charging you like, yes, they're charging you $4 a book or $5 for issue ones, but there's a lot of Batman books out there that are $6, $7, $8, and you're forced to read a story that maybe you don't want to just to read that main story, right? So so at the same time, you could probably say that maybe DC is kind of pricing themselves out a little bit at the same time, because I'm going to buy a $4 or $5 comic book, maybe a #1 issue that kicks off a whole story that has to deal with the entire story of one character, than an $8 Batman anthology comic. I'm going to do that any day first, so that's the way I look at it too. That could possibly hurt their sales.
Yeah. I don't know.
So and we'll definitely talk more about this, I'm sure, with the Crisis stuff. So we'll pause that for a second, because we have a couple others here. So I'm going to go with 2 more questions. One was from Mike Manhattan. Have you guys seen Arcane? Ironically enough, I'm watching it right now. It's like the thing I go to bed with, just that one show, that way to break up the day. And it's
I was just going to ask if it's good. Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Okay.
I don't like the heavy mythology stories, and I don't usually like steampunk, but I think it's very character driven, and it's gonna be gay, so I'm excited for that once we get to that. No, but it's Phil watched it, and he's like, "Oh, you should watch a cat." And I try to take his suggestions if I have time, and I have not watched some of the shows he suggested, so it was just the right time. I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. I'll give it a try, and I did, and it's been a good show, and it's not short, but it's like 10 episodes, and they're 40 something minutes long. So it's good. I enjoy it.
It's on my watch list. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
I think you'd love it in particular. I think you'll really, really like it.
Cool.
So the other question before we get to the next book is Sweet Exorcist, your guys, there's an alleged paper shortage affecting comic books.
It's not alleged.
I was going to say it's not alleged. As someone who was put an order for their books in December and it doesn't see a finish line anytime soon. It is not alleged. It is very much happening and is affecting every printer. And DC and Marvel, I think, are ahead of the curve a little, but we've already seen delays from it. And I'm sure as months go on, there will be more delays.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why we had all those delays from Marvel earlier that were announced, that I guess books are still suffering from. So everyone's suffering from it in one way, fashion, or another, right?
And
all right.
And like Kat said, on the indie level, it's like we've talked to other people that have talked to several printers, and it's just across the board. It's a worldwide shortage. There's no alleged about it, I promise you.
No, it's like really bad. This is the worst I've seen. The paper shortage is now. Like, we had the paper shortage back in last year too, like when the diamond lunar thing was happening around that time, there was like the beginning of the paper shortage. And now it's especially indie comics, there's so few people like our level that have been able to print comics right now. So it is crazy out there. And it's affecting all comics, and there is not a finish line to it. There is no near future where it's going to end, which really sucks.
All
right. Well, we're going to keep going. Thanks, guys, for the questions and the comments. I want to thank you guys for watching right now. Again, give this video a thumbs up and just making sure that people go out, let them know that the show is on. And like I said, we'll talk about the DC Crisis event when we get done talking about the comics. So right now, we move on from Fantastic Four. We're going to talk about crossover issue 11. So this was we're about 2 more issues away from the conclusion of this. I like this series, but it's still not my favorite series, even though what happened with the ending of how Donny Cates had to come up with an ending for this story, and the big bad and everything else. And then you wind up seeing Negan making his return at the end of this book. And I can honestly say that I don't know why I didn't expect it, but maybe I should have expected something like this, right? I mean, it was pretty cool to see Negan at the end of the book, and I was like, wow, that's pretty badass right there.
Yeah, I was not expecting that at all. I don't know why, like you, it's that I didn't think some of these bigger tier Image characters would be involved, but I just didn't see ones on that level, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, it was a welcome surprise, and I thought I actually really liked this issue.
Uh-huh.
All the meta stuff with Donny Cates and him talking to his creation in Ellipsis, that whole conversation I really loved. There was just different layers to it, like her saying this is supposed to be my story, not yours, and him being proud of his creation and that kind of thing. So I really enjoyed this issue.
I'm curious to see if, because there are some hints of like, I feel like such meta conversation about how Donny Cates felt about this book. I feel like when it launched, maybe he was in a different point of his career, and now he's like, oh, maybe I should end it. Maybe I didn't want to make it. Maybe it's too big for me. Like, there's so many interesting facets of, just the things writers think. But yeah, I just thought it was a very, very interesting issue in that regard. And then him saying it was supposed to be a love story. Now I'm curious if those two are even going to get together. Where they start out, oh, it's a love story. Maybe it's like that's what he always wanted. And they're just like, I don't want that.
And it took a life of its own.
Hinted at that at the very beginning, obviously, of the story of how it was supposed to be, right? And then the whole narrative changed as the course of the story went, right? Serenity goes, so who was that guy at the end? I assume he was from The Walking Dead, but I don't read it. So that's the biggest big bad guy in The Walking Dead by the name of Negan. And he has a baseball bat by the name of Lucille, which is named after his wife that passed away from cancer in the previous, before the apocalyptic situation happened. So, that's who he is. So I like the book. I think it's good. I think it's very creative. I think it's very different. Like you guys said, it's very meta. For me, it's just too slow. You know what I'm saying? It's just like for 4 issues now, we've been standing around in a jail cell talking, and I enjoy the conversation, but I'm just looking for something just a little bit more,
Right.
So
yeah, I get that, and I wonder if they're trying to drag it out so those big surprises hit harder.
Right.
Which the Negan one did for sure.
Right.
When they went to the baseball field, I didn't even, and I know we just
it didn't do together. Didn't even register.
But you should have, right? You're like, oh, they're going to a baseball field. Who are they going to see here? Like I really didn't even think about it, and I was like, oh man, that's such a cool ending, and I hope it gets people excited for this book because I think it kind of goes with what Mike was saying. I like this book a lot. Like this issue I loved in particular, but there's like 10 issues in between where I'm like, nothing is happening.
Right.
So when it's good, it's great. When it's not, it's just like, oh, should I be still reading this book?
This is going to be such a good trade read, though. I mean,
probably
reading that all together, it's just going to be so good.
It's good commentary.
Sorry. Go. I was just going to say I saw a post by Donny Cates on social media today. Right before we came on, and he was like, somebody was complaining about him being in the story and how it turned it into fanfic and they weren't going to read it anymore. And he was like, if me getting to be in a story playing with some of my favorite toys is fanfic, then heck yeah, it's a fanfic and I love it. So
and they
I
must
thought that was
not
cool.
get what this book's about. Like if they thought that was fanfic, they're like, whoa, they really missed the point of what this book is.
That's funny. So Serenity goes, Lucille, and the big bad in a zombie book is I guess that's supposed to say human.
Human.
Interesting choice. So, Serenity, this shows you that you need to read The Walking Dead because The Walking Dead, it's not a zombie book. It's a very character-driven book set in an apocalyptic world. And what makes the book so good is the characters in the story. It is very well written. And if you have not ever read it, I definitely suggest you read it.
Yeah, it's like the zombies are just this annoyance, this nuisance that, yes, it kills a lot of people, but they're just kind of the backdrop for everything else going on. And it's more an exploration on how society breaks down in an apocalyptic event and turns on each other.
Right. They eventually become like flies on the wall. That's what the zombies are. It's just a premise to start the story. That's really it. So pretty cool stuff there. Bear F, I've been getting each of the issues, but waiting for the art to end because I heard it would hit harder as a trade weight. Yeah, probably right. Definitely right about that. All right. So Next on the list, we're going to talk about Batman issue 120. I like this book a lot. I had a lot of fun with this one, just with the whole Abyss situation, him dealing with himself being blind, working with that detective. Like they're teaming up with each other to try to find out answers of what's going on with Batman Incorporated. He tries to free them. And then at the end of this issue, you find out that that Abyss has them under his control, and they're called like the Dark Batman or something like that. I love the artwork in this story. I think this book is really good. I'm having a fun time reading it.
It's definitely the best Batman we've gotten in a while. The art, the art's really good. I didn't love the ending with the Abyss twist. I was like, oh, that was fine. But I like the detective in Batman a lot. I was like, this feels different, and she feels different, and I hope that we get more of her. Like, it's cool just to get this human character not connected to superheroes working with Batman outside of the Bat family.
Right. I like that too.
Yeah, that partnership or whatever you want to call it is solid. The Abyss thing, I didn't see that coming either, so that was a nice little twist. But yeah, I don't know exactly where it's heading. I wasn't super excited by this, but it is a solid read.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually really liked it because the fact of the reason being is that I didn't see that ending. Obviously, when you see Luthor, right, you're like, oh, he's the one that's behind everything. He's the one causing all the problems. And Batman's freaking out trying to get answers. And then that's when they throw that twist. And I was like, wow, that was pretty badass right there. So I guess I'm just enjoying Batman because it's a little bit more grounded than it once was. And there's not this overabundance of characters. And I think that's why I'm enjoying it so much more.
They slow the pace, which is nice. Like with the ending of Tynian's run in particular, things were really being thrown at you where you just didn't care at any point because it's like it's like you felt numb to it all.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and this particular story takes it completely out of all that stuff that was going on because he's, dealing with Batman Inc. So
it feels different. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of that, now we're going to move on to our number 5. Brant, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is, let me find where my list is. It's a new book from AWA called Primos.
I heard that was good this week.
Yeah, it was a solid read. It took the concept of, how everybody wonders like where the Aztecs went and, the aliens built the pyramids and all that stuff. It kind of takes that it uses that and makes it part of the story. So like this guy, I think he's a Mayan. If I'm mistaken, somebody correct me. I apologize. But his like descendant is this kid, and him and his cousins become these superheroes that have to defend against this guy, this really ancient guy's brother who's gone to the dark side, who they refer into the book as some kind of like cosmic, like a Mayan Thanos or something like that. And it's kind of cool because like the dialogue's really fresh. It's like it's not what you expect in a superhero book. It's just like these young kids saying like, I'm like freaking Dumbledore here because he gets magic powers and that kind of stuff. And he's got like this future sight, and it was just a cool book. And the art was really nice. It was by Carlo Barberi that did the Super Sons books. So it was really tight, crisp art as well. So I enjoyed this first issue. I thought it was a really good start, and I really got into the characters. That was what I loved about it. They felt like natural, real characters, and it was set in a setting that you don't normally get. So,
gotcha. I was going to check it out, but my shop didn't have it. So, yeah. And Barberi does the artwork in Spawn as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's cool stuff. That's good. I'm glad you enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
All right. And Kat, what was yours?
Mine was Spider-Woman, issue 19.
That's a good book.
I was surprised by all the scroll talk, but now learning that Secret Evasion 2 is coming, I was like, oh,
right.
Okay.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I liked it. I thought it covered ground that we haven't seen from Jessica in a really long time. It was a good action issue. It was fun.
I mean, I like that book just because it has a lot of action, and I love everything that she says in that book. It's just like you just can't mess with her. You know what I'm saying? It's just like You screw with Jessica Drew, you're in for a rude awakening. And that's what I love about her so much, you know.
Yeah.
It's a good and fun book. There are some funny lines in that book also. There always is, you know.
Yeah. Especially when you deal with people that she loves. Like you take her son, you take out her friend. It's like, okay, gloves are off. I don't care who you are. You get in my way, you're going down.
Right.
And like her zapping Spider-Man and trying to decide which Captain Marvel she's going to take out and stuff like that. It's just, it's fun stuff mixed in a very serious story because there's strong history between her and Veronica from the Skrulls, from Secret Invasion. So, yeah, it's such a good book. It was a really good issue.
Absolutely. All right, and then my my number 5 was once again Detective Comics. This issue was a good issue for me. I'm just enjoying the story. I just like seeing how this whole place is crumbling apart little by little each issue that you find out. And in this issue, you find out that for sure Psycho Pirate is behind this whole Arkham tower, and it's a con. The whole thing is a con so he can get money, so he can fund this whole thing, and just it's like a quick rich type of scheme. And so the doctor's using Psycho Pirate's powers to hypnotize all these people to think that they're cured or they're calm or whatever it is. And it's taking a toll on him. Like you get to see it in the issue. He's in hiding. He's drinking all these energy drinks and he's eating all this junk food. And then there's this one instance where he passes out. And just like that, he loses control of all the patients, and you get to see them all freak out on each other. And that was kind of another crack in the foundation there before the major event actually happens. So I loved seeing all that stuff. I loved seeing how things is starting to crumble apart, and it was fun for me. I had a good time with it.
Yeah, this is my number 7. I enjoyed this issue too. It was like you said, those scenes. It was like energy drinks and like I don't know if they were supposed to be like caffeine pills, but there was pills all over the place. And he's just like he's being forced to stay awake this whole time to control all these people, and he just like passes out, falls out of his chair on his face, and it was crazy. And I liked learning the history of how he became involved with it. And then you get to see Helena and Dick jump into action as well. And I'm even enjoying the backup story. I don't know where that's headed or what that ties into really, but that little kid that the Penguin took. It's interesting.
Yeah. All right, cool. Welcome to the new viewers on the stream, guys. Thank you for joining us. Definitely, if you're new, like I said, we will be getting to the DC talk with the new events after we get done discussing our comics. And so now we're moving on from our number 5 picks, and we're going to be talking about another new number 1 this week, which was Sabretooth issue 1. Kat, did you read this or no?
I did not. I did not pick up Sabretooth.
I did not think she was. So what did you think, Brant? Did you read this one?
I did read this one.
It doesn't seem like you wanted to.
I don't think I'm going to read the next one, but it was fine. It was an okay story, but it just I thought maybe it was going somewhere different, and by the end of it, I realized I wasn't interested in the story that they were telling. That's all. Like I thought he actually got out, and it was gonna I don't know. There was gonna be some subplot, some subterfuge going on, and it just seems like it's all in his head. And that just doesn't interest me at all. So
So I liked it. I thought it was cool. Obviously you got Doug, who is in, kind of makes a deal with Sabretooth to where his body is still trapped in Krakoa, but he gave him the opportunity to free his mind. So where he could do whatever he wants. And in his mind, it's all real, right? And so basically what happened is he's done everything that he wanted in his mind, but now he's become like this person that's in hell of Krakoa. Like he is the king of hell in that area, in that realm. And at the end of the issue, you wind up finding like there's people that are joining him in this.
Yeah.
So, which you didn't think that was going to happen, like that he was going to be the only one. And these characters are new. Like you've never seen these characters before, right? That's what I got out of it. I couldn't make out who they were.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen one of them, but I'm not exactly sure.
Right.
So yeah, if they're not new, they're very like unknown characters.
Gotcha. So yeah, he's basically like the devil of Krakoa. That's what he's become. So I wish he would have broken free, but it was fine for me. I enjoyed it, and my favorite part though was the beginning, like before he got sent
when he keeps cutting Doug's head off. Yeah.
It was so funny, dude. It was funny. Yeah. So it was good for me. I had a good time. All right, so let's move forward then. So we're going to talk about Nocterra, issue 7. So, Kat, I'm not going to recommend this issue to you because you jinxed it for us. Like, you know how you said it was like super dense? Well, this issue was super dense. And
I'm glad I was right.
And the reason why this one is because this issue was trying to get its readers back on track of everything, like where this world takes place, what the PM event is, who these characters are, what their mission is, and there was a lot of backtracking to get you back on track until you wind up getting to the end on them trying to find out this equation in order to get the light back, right? And so it was a lot of discussion in that book, so not a ton happened in it to progress the story.
And the narration changed. It wasn't the main character anymore. It was Piper, the little girl that she brought on. So she took the lead, and like she has all this mathematical knowledge and that kind of thing. So she was like breaking all that down. The only other interesting thing in it though was the Blacktop Bill stuff, because we find out there are more people like him.
Yes,
but he kills them all.
Yeah.
And he's learning, like he's trying to figure out how to converse with the I forget what you call the dark creatures, but he's learning how to converse with them, and they're telling him not yet. And so there's more to that. Like there actually is a consciousness behind these creatures now. So, but yeah, it was not. I don't know. It was not the most exciting issue of this series, and I'm a little concerned going forward, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll
Keep
see
me
how
updated.
it goes.
Yeah,
off my pull list for.
I so wanted it to
remaining.
be good, though.
Yeah, be like, oh, this is the best issue ever. No,
I mean it's not even in my top 5.
No, not mine either.
Yeah, it wasn't even there. All right, so let's move on. Let's go and talk about a series that's probably most of us in our top 5, and this is Dark Knights of Steel issue 4.
Which is so interesting. You guys were talking about Nocterra being very expositionary. This issue could have been that, and it kind of is, but it did it right. Where it's like, it's an exposition issue. Like, that's what it is. But the way it's told was so emotional, and there's so many twists and turns. You're like, that is how you do an exposition issue.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't just an info dump. It was character building, and I don't know. It was learning secret pasts and all that kind of stuff. So
yep. And it took a break from the main part of the story to let you learn about the history of the characters and the building of the relationships of the two families and how they all got together, and you got to see how Lex Luthor became the Joker Green Lantern character, which I thought was cool. I was like, how can you mash up 3 characters together? Well, I guess you could do it just like that, right?
Yep.
So, but what was also interesting about this issue was like the drama between the elves and the Waynes, but by the end, they're still friends. Like that was interesting to me. It's like after all this cheating and affairs, it's Martha who asks Lara, like, oh, can you take care of Bruce? Like out of all people, you could tell, like, even though that happened, they still were friends, which is weird.
Yeah.
He couldn't bear children. So he looked at it as like a blessing in a way, that actually happened. So I don't know if you caught that. He wasn't able to have kids. Like he couldn't produce.
For sure. Yeah. It was interesting, but still an affair.
But and Lara, Lara being able to take on the responsibility of raising a child that her husband had with another woman is, that was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was interesting though. It's just like, I've never seen that type of arc unfold that way. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. And this is still like DC Comics in a superhero book, but it felt kind of soap opera-ish in a good way.
Yeah.
But it was not pleasantly surprising, but I was not looking forward to this issue as much because I was like, oh, it's going to be an info dump. And, it really wasn't, which was cool.
Yeah, I had the same concerns. Even going in, like flipping through them, like, oh, it's just going to be that exactly exposition info dump. And I enjoyed the actual story once I read it. So,
all right, so let's continue now with our number 4. Kat, what was your number 4 this week?
Mine was Batman. We already talked about it.
All right, and Brant?
Mine was Serial number 10. Last issue of this story, and it was interesting seeing the fight between who we assumed was Jenny and Zoe. I keep forgetting Zoe's name, but their whole interaction, cutting each other's ankles, trying to keep them from, and the ultimate demise of who we thought was Jenny, only to find out that she had a twin sister. And she's off somewhere.
Of soap operas.
Yeah, speaking of soap operas, but it was a solid ending, and it left it open ended to where they could pick this up he could pick this up if he wanted to, Terry Moore. So I really enjoyed the way that this came to the conclusion. I think this was a stronger issue than some of the ones in the middle. So.
Yeah, no, I like this. I just hated that it ended. I was like, oh, finally things are getting interesting. And I don't know if we're going to get a continuation, which is why I just missed my top 5. I think it was number 6. But I love the art and the action's really good for this book. It just was like, man, why did it end here?
Yeah, no, I get that.
All right. And I saw Kat posted this a second ago.
Go for it.
There we go. Jeff says, hey, Spider Slayer, what's up, man? Love your channel. Really digging the 10 best covers of the week. Glad you enjoy the series. Thank you for watching the stream. I know not all of you know that I do streams with Brant and Kat because it's always so late on Tuesday nights. But if you guys are tuning into this stream for the first time, Kat, Brant, and myself have been doing this stream for eons. So
eons indeed.
It is every Tuesday night. It starts at 10:15 p.m. Eastern time. You guys are more welcome to join any time of the week. We always talk about our comics. I know I've been promoting it more on my channel when I do after the poll to see what my final top 5 actually are by this time. So I'm glad some of you guys are tuning in. So thank you. All right. So now we're moving on to The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 88. So we had the first appearance of Queen Goblin, right? That's who she is. Yeah. Every time now, ever since you said the Goblin Queen, I was like, oh, now it makes sense, right? So it's a Queen Goblin, and I like this issue. The one thing I didn't like though in this issue was the artwork.
Art,
it really took it away because being that we have a first appearance of this major villain, right? Or at least through this story. You would want somebody that's maybe a much more detailed artist to get the full effect or menacing factor of this brand new character. So I was a little bit disappointed with that. But with this issue, I liked it more because I liked seeing kind of this origin tale of this character a little bit, just by like how she became the Queen Goblin. They took the sins from Norman Osborn and they injected it into her. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. I thought that was fun. And I liked like the words that came out of her mouth. Like, she's like, yeah, I'm going to bash your brains. Like, she just felt dark and just real evil, where I was like, man, I like her better already than freaking Kindred. I'm like, I love her little weapons that she has, like her glider. It splits into 2. She's got this badass mace. Like, I liked that stuff. And I thought it was a lot of fun. And the other thing was, I like how Ben Reilly's memories now are like messed up. And it's just like Mary Jane was in trouble and he took Janine and he's like, peace out. I'm leaving you. I don't care. So it's damn.
That ending definitely made the issue, I felt. And then I was pleasantly surprised by this character. Maybe it's just because like she versed Mary Jane and Jeannie first, because I'm like, oh, that's cool. But I liked her. And also I think what you were saying too is just like the beyond aspect. It's like they became a little bit more interesting to me this week because they are creating heroes and villains.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Their true agenda.
Operation.
Yeah, the true agenda starts to form, and you're seeing a little bit more about them, and like there's overseers and there's other people involved with this whole Beyond Corporation that we don't know about yet. So that was more interesting. The art was definitely a detraction for me. It was like wonky in places. It wasn't the solid art that we got in the last couple issues, which, especially last issue, I really loved the art. I know you didn't love it as much, Kat, but compared to this, it was apples and oranges to me. Mm-hmm. But I like that Ben has his own goblin villain now, kind of.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat, and the memory stuff with him, I think it's messed him up to where he doesn't have that. Like we saw last issue where he didn't remember the phrase that Uncle Ben said.
Yeah.
Responsibility. So now he doesn't have that. So what is Spider-Man without that? Exactly. That's an interesting exploration of that character.
Yep. And in our next issue, well, this week we get the point issue with the stingers. Yeah. And I'm like really not looking forward to that. And the next issue after that, though, we get the Queen Goblin fighting Black Cat.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah,
so
that'll
I'm
be
looking
good.
forward to that. But yeah, we gotta get through this stinger situation first.
Yeah, I don't think we need it.
Man, come on. All right, let's move forward, and we're going to talk about. We talked about it already. Detective Comics issue 1051. Yep. So we talked about that. So then we'll move on to our number 3. And I'll head it off to Brant this time. What do you got for your number 3?
Mine is Spider-Woman, which we already talked about.
All right, and Kat?
Mine is Spider-Man, which we already talked about.
And mine is Amazing Spider-Man as well. So,
Spider 3s right there.
Yeah, we got the spiders in that one.
That did not make my top 5. You guys enjoyed it more than I did.
I was just surprised. I didn't expect to like it at all. I was like, oh, this is like interesting.
All right. Oh, boy.
I'm sad that you picked this up. I'm sorry to hear it.
Man. I'm trying to be nice.
So this was the unofficial continuation of Nonstop.
Yes.
Spider-Man.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And
so
it felt very 90s to me, the artwork. And I'm going to say that wasn't a bad thing. Like I like the artwork in the book, right? However, the story or lack thereof was
this?
So disappointing. And it does such a bad job at explaining anything on how Spider-Man became this way. What is this weird kid that he's trying to rescue in this island? Like, I don't.
And why is he teaming up with Baron von Zemo?
Yeah, and who are these people that are hunting? Like, I was like, what's happening in this comic book? Like, I don't even know what I'm reading. And half the dialogue in this book is Spider-Man's like, eat, run. It's so bad. It was so bad. I was so looking forward to this comic too. And when I found out that it was like kind of like a continuation from Nonstop, I'm like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one interesting thing from Nonstop with the backup story with not the backup story, but Baron Zemo. Like, we saw him come back in that, and it's like, okay, where's that going? And I actually enjoyed Nonstop, but this, oh my goodness! Like, you were talking about that dialogue, the eat, run, and stuff, and it wasn't even dialogue; it was just like sound effects, like plastered all over the place.
Yeah.
and Zemo's like talking, and he's like a heroic character in the story for some odd reason. And it just made no sense whatsoever. I'm like, I don't remember how we got to this point from Nonstop. Did this come from Nonstop? Is there something in the middle that we're not privy to? What is going on?
Did you read the whole thing of Nonstop?
I thought I did. Maybe I missed an issue. This was a mess.
That was delayed. That was like I feel like Nonstop well, the issue 1 was super delayed, and then in between it was super delayed. So maybe that's why it's not as memorable.
Yeah, and it got straight up canceled, and I'm kind of surprised that they kept going with the same storyline in this, but yeah, it was a mess. I will not be reading issue 2.
See, this seemed like such a filler Spider-Man book, and as much as it's like, oh, this is Spider-Man, it's at issue 1, it's like, save your money. You don't want this. You have Amazing Spider-Man. You're good. So I'm glad to hear I didn't miss anything.
The good thing is about this one is I got some cool homage covers for this. Like they had a homage with McFarlane's Spider-Man #1, and then they had a homage with Amazing Fantasy. So I bought those couple covers. Nice. And so I'm happy I at least got those out of it. But I'm not continuing this either, Brant. This was by far, I mean, I know we're short into the year so far, but this was definitely my least favorite comic that I've read this year so far.
It's definitely a contender if we were still doing that, but yeah. Oh man.
We do have a question which I'm sure Brant can answer. Jeff says, don't mean to jump in off topic, but are any of you G.I. Joe fans? I hear there's a Lady J movie / show in the works.
I am a huge G.I. Joe fan, lifelong, dedicated, committed, loyal. And I had not heard that. So I'm actually really excited by that. So thank you for sharing that news. I'm going to have to go look that up.
Well, I am too. I mean, I'm probably not as hardcore G.I. Joe fan as Brant. I've been more on the Transformers side. But I am a G.I. Joe fan. I've watched every episode of that show, watched that old animated movie with was it Serpentor?
La 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 la.
Yeah. Duke gets in a coma and all that crazy stuff. Cobra Commander turns into a snake. Like, I love that movie. But if there's a Lady J movie, dude, I'm definitely on board for that. I mean, come on, you can't turn down Lady J, right?
Right.
It's a cool character, right? So I think that's cool. The movies need to be better. I feel like those movies that were bombing.
Yeah. The Snake Eyes one was okay. But I mean, and I understood the changes they made. I had no problems with the changes they made, but it was better than like the G.I. Joe movies, and especially better than that first one. But yeah, I don't know. There's something that's still off about just the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Hopefully they keep improving it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we're going to keep going. Let's see. We're moving on to our number 2 now. So Kat, what was your number 2?
Mine was Dark Knight of Steel. We already talked about it.
Mine too.
Oh, fancy. My number 2. You guys are going to laugh at that, but I like Sabretooth, man.
Wow.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the artwork was really good too, and the kind of the creepy factor. Maybe that was part of the reason too.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's talk about Daredevil, Woman Without Fear, issue 2. What did you guys think about this one?
I've been so disappointed with this book. I love Elektra's Daredevil. It's the same writer. It's like you think it'd be the same beats, but it's all just the past. And I'm like, it doesn't really feel like it has a story.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot that happened here. It's like it was mostly about flashbacks to her and Matt and how he knows all her secrets. And it's like, okay, thanks. You could have done that in like 2 panels, but sure. and it's still
has to leave,
Yeah.
And I like the fight between her and Craven, and he's actually a Thunderbolt. I like how he pulls out the badge and he's like, I am.
That was funny.
Like, Judge Dredd, I am the law. That's kind of like what he did there,
Yeah.
But yeah, this was definitely not one of my favorite books of the week by far.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kat. I've been disappointed by this. I was hoping for something a little bit stronger.
We do have a super chat for $5 from New Type. How would you compare Beyond with Brand New Day in terms of execution, writing teams, etc.? For me, in spite of the Mephisto retcon, I feel Brand New Day had good stories. If I had to compare it, even though I don't love either, I think Brand New Day is better because it has Peter as the center of it. If you mean like, is that what we're comparing? Writing teams, honestly, who was, besides Dan Slott, who was the writing teams in Brand New Day? I don't remember who were like, in that circle of people.
I don't remember either, but it was probably stronger storytelling. This one, because there's so many, I think maybe because there's so many creative teams that it hasn't been as cohesive as it could have been.
I can tell you one: Bob Gale, Barry Kitson, and Mark Farmer. That's the one.
I don't know who they are.
I know Barry Kitson. I know that name. But yeah, it's like because you have so many creative teams involved in this one. It's like there's certain really good issues, and then there's certain really not good issues, and then other stuff in between. I don't know. That happens anytime you have like multiple writers on something. Usually,
yeah.
I don't know. I would have to agree with you, Kat. I think Brand New Day, as much as I hate the outcome of that story, was probably better.
I think it had a much larger and more. I'm not saying that this doesn't have a purpose to it, but this feels like more of a stall tactic.
I was just gonna say it. It's a stall because really we don't have a creative team,
right? Yeah, and so
I think they didn't know who they wanted for their creative team, so they're like, let's wait it out.
Yeah,
it takes me back to what was it, the 600s where they were doing creative teams every 2 or 3 issues.
Like the shed storyline era. I think that was around.
Yeah.
I don't remember which issues they were, but
that was in the 600s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Dan Slott was one of those writers that they kept rotating to and eventually he took over. Yeah.
Right. That was right before Dan Slott took over, and he did he did Big Time. And I think that was like one of the first stories to come out, and then it went to then at issue 700 was when Spider-Man died. Right. So and that's when
it makes sense as 600s.
So
I think that was around the time they were doing the double shipping, right? Like that was when they started that.
Yeah. Three issues a month, I think, is what they were doing at the time.
Just like now. Yeah. Just like now.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So all right, well, let's move forward here now. So that was that one. So we're gonna jump into our number one, and then we'll talk about that DC news. So number one comic of the week for me was Batman issue 120. That was my favorite.
Okay. I think me and Brand have the same one. We'll see.
You guys have Knights of Steel, don't you?
Yeah,
or
crossover. No, Dark Knight Steel for
number two.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, crossover. There you go.
Same number 2 and 1.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. And we both had spiders for number 3.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so there's all the comic talk. So now we're gonna jump into the main thing here. We're gonna talk about the Dark Crisis arrives on Free Comic Book Day, which I think is always kind of good to do. Like if you want to get people into a brand of comics, well, why not release it on Free Comic Book Day with a big event coming, get people excited and hyped up for it, and you could get new readers on it as well.
You could. I don't know if you want to for Crisis. It seems very confusing for new readers.
But who knows though, because this could be, and I know we've said it before, but this could be the beginning of something very good for DC Comics. Maybe this could end the whole Bat thing and maybe eventually introduce more characters again to the readers of DC.
I can only see that if they're relaunching like they have in the past, where they're like, let's do a new slate of books. I don't have hope for this. But we've been teased a Crisis every single year since Doomsday Clock. They're like, this is the Crisis. No, just wait. This is the Crisis. No. You thought last time was the Crisis? This is the Crisis. I'm so tired of it. I don't care. Will I read it? Of course, because we review comics and I want to be in the know. If I didn't review comics and I didn't want to be in the know, I wouldn't read this. I'm not that excited for it. The only thing I'm interested in is that Williamson's writing it. But even so, we haven't even read any of the other Williamson stuff. We have not read Justice League Incarnate. I read maybe the first or 2 issues of that, and I didn't love it. So I'm like, I don't have much hope for it, sadly.
Yeah, that's a good point. I read the first issue of Incarnate as well and didn't continue there. I want to believe in your optimism, Mike, and I want this to be.
I'm going to be optimistic.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm glad someone is.
That's always been, and we're all kind of like that. That's the whole reason why I love comic books, because I always try to look on. There's always negatives, all right, but I always try to look on the positive side of comic books, because if you're negative about every single comic book out there, you're going to wind up hating it. And even though you may not enjoy something, you never know when it's somebody else's first read. So they could read it and they could really like it. And you know what? That's okay. Just because we've read comics for 20, 30 years, to us, we get jaded by it. You know what I'm saying? But to put out all that negative energy out there and say that, oh, this comic sucks, you still got to point out the good, because
for sure,
again, there's something for somebody out there that maybe has never read comic books, you know?
Yeah.
And a good example of like some events surprise you. Like I think we've gotten, at least for me, like Devil's Reign. I was like, now I'm in event fatigue. I wish this is better than it was. But then I read King in Black issue 1, and remember, I wasn't even gonna buy it. I was like, I don't want to get it. I'm not even reading Venom. And I think in recent years, it's one of the better events. So, and I know those are all Marvel stuff, but War of the Realms was a nice surprise. Things like that. So I'm not saying that this is going to be bad. I'm just worried. Where I see from Marvel and DC currently is that they, with their events, they are like, well, with Marvel, it's more of the sake of, we have all these movies coming up. We need Secret Evasion, which we're going to talk about later. We need all these like things we've done in the past for the new readers, which is like what you just said. Like, you never know when it's a new comic. So in that sake, that's okay. I do wish we were getting new stories alongside that. I wish like Secret Evasion was one thing, and then here's this totally new event for a new movie in 10 years. But DC, I think, is just trying to find themselves in comics again. And maybe in movies as well, but they just don't know who they are anymore, which is really sad to see.
Yes. I agree with that. Like, DC needs to do something. And like I said, I'm just hopeful that this is something that they're trying to do, that is kind of like, okay, maybe now why we've been doing this whole Batman thing is we're waiting for this event to come out. So this gives us an excuse to finally release all these books without having to do maybe a hard reboot. You know what I'm saying? It's like, maybe we have 25 Batman books and now we can replace them with new characters like Firestorm, Green Arrow,
who is on this image.
Yeah,
he's getting his own book.
Yeah. and all these different characters, like maybe it's a chance to do that again. I honestly would rather see all these different characters get books than all these different Batman books. And I get Batman sells, but I can tell you that probably all of us out here that read comics are getting tired of the oversaturation of Batman titles out there.
Batman's actually on this thing twice.
Oh, of course. 3 times, actually. You see the back of his head in one of those, too.
I thought that was what's his face? The other Batman.
Oh, maybe
the one that's standing next to Yara.
No, like up. So like there's the one in the top left corner, there's the one in the bottom right, and then there's one above Firestorm.
Oh God, there you are.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so funny.
But one thing that is interesting about this image to me is we get the future state team of Yara and John and all those. You got the Jeff Johns team on here. They're building up this legacy thing, and it may not mean anything, but if we're gonna use some of these characters or some of these teams in some way, shape, or form, I think that could be cool at the very least.
I just hope it doesn't fall apart, because that's definitely the biggest worry. They tried doing it right after DC Rebirth. They're like, look, now we have Wally, and then obviously they end up doing Heroes in Crisis, and then they keep teasing it. They're like, well, look, the old Teen Titans are here, and then you never get a series from them. And I just hope they're going to do it. Right. And I think maybe that was the 5G stuff, and I really do think it was literally they did fire so many people from DC Comics, and they were just moving people in and out. So I think it was also bad timing, and that's why things were a little bit shaky and why things didn't pan out. But I'm hoping now they're like, oh, these are the pieces we're trying to pick up from that time period of DC.
Yeah.
Who would you got? What if there's one book that you want, or a character you want to have a book again? What would it be? I'll start with you, Kat.
I would really want a Hal Jordan book again that wasn't Grant Morrison. I think that's what's in a Green Arrow book. Honestly, I scratched that. I do want to see Green Lantern, but I say Green Arrow. I think he's a book a character that really deserves it, and we haven't seen him in such a long time.
What about you, Brent?
I would still like a good Young Justice or Teen Titans book. That
they tried so many times.
I know they have. I know they have. But if we're going outside that, man, I don't know, because I'm not a huge DC guy, so like all mine are big heavy hitters. Green Lantern's a good one. I agree. Man, I probably have to think about that.
Yeah, maybe the three of us are more Marvel fans, so that's what is interesting about this. Yeah, we're not like we all grew up with Marvel, and again, I love DC. We all do love DC here, and we've read many DC books, but I always grew up as a Marvel fan.
I just remember how excited I was with the New 52.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was really excited with that, and I remember how many different books I was reading. And for me now to barely read any DC books besides Batman, I just think it's depressing. And even though not all those stories were all that great, I still loved having the option of buying all those vast majority of different types of books.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have that option. If it's, you know what I'm saying? And I get you can't just keep books on the shelves because if they don't sell. But having overabundance of one character doesn't do any justice either.
But it also goes back to like DC needs to sell in a different way. We keep talking about like, first of all, their webtoon is doing so awesome. We got the Batman family webtoon that is doing so well for them. You have their middle school graphic novels that seem to be doing very, very well as well. So why are we not getting to see like the Teen Titans get graphic novels or go on webtoon or do other platforms besides single issues where you continue to see it fails and that's not their audience, but it doesn't mean they don't have an audience. So just do different things. It's like from Marvel, whereas like, Runaways got canceled. You were literally just targeting the wrong audience. The trades did so well for Runaways, which is why it lasted as long as it did. The single issues didn't do so well. So why are we not selling Runaways as a graphic novel? Like, why are we not exploring these other options?
True.
Right.
New Type said a Renee Montoya question solo. That'd be good. I like that. Cool.
Here's
Stargirl. I'd like to see a Stargirl one. Yeah. I really like the show, so I'd like to see a comic.
Brant and Kat, do you know, was 0 Hour a crisis?
They consider it a crisis, I believe.
Not in name, but basically.
Okay.
More or less.
I saw another question a little bit above, so I don't want to miss it. Parker Luck says, Kat and Brant, I know that you both are creators of your own comics, but outside of your own work, what other independent comics do you like? Question to you, Mike, as well. We read a lot of Image books. What's great, I think, about our show is that we read a vast variety of everything. Like literally last night, I read a book from Harper Publishing, Squad. It's a werewolf comic about like this teenager who joins this Heathers-like group and finds out they're all werewolves. So, and Lisa Sparrow was doing the art of that. So like, I try to read everything. Like we read Kickstarter books, we read regular indie books, but if we're talking about like direct market, I know we all like Radiant Black. We enjoy Seven Secrets. So there's a lot of great indie books out there in all different platforms. Crossover. You guys like Nocterra.
I read Chicken Devil from, what was it? Is it Aftershock? Who does that one? Chicken Devil is
Aftershock.
Yeah. And then there's a new book coming out tomorrow from Aftershock as well. It's called Life Zero. And the reason why I'm picking that up is because Giacchetto does the artwork in it. So again, like Kat said, we all love a lot of indie books. We definitely support them. Yeah. And then when it comes to, again, I'm going to throw out Firestorm. Because I want to read a modern day Firestorm comic book. I always was pretty like into the character, but I've never really read any of his comic books. So I want to see a comic book with him in it.
He's a cool character. I love what's her face? Firehawk. I think she's a really cool character, but we'll never see her again.
One of the first comics I ever read was a Firestorm comic, so I have a history. Yeah, it was. I tell the story all the time. It's like my first comics were bought for me when we were on a camping trip and it was raining, and our moms went and got us these 3-packs of comics from the convenience store, and
Nice.
it was like Archie, Firestorm, and Iron Man is what I remember. So
Gail Simone wrote Firestorm for a while. I think that's when it was at its peak, when people are like reading Firestorm.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what happens with the Crisis event. Obviously, we'll cover it. And hopefully it's good. That's definitely
just can't
our
go
hope.
wrong. You know, go out on Free Comic Book Day, guys, and support your local shop.
Stores.
Pick that book up, get some other things, you know, and just remember, there's always some kind of good in a comic book. Don't always harp on the negative, and don't always be negative about comics, because again, you never know when it's somebody's first read. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that somebody else is not going to like it.
So could be a Firestorm book.
Comes the good. Exactly. You know, so just remember that. All right.
Well, before we get into news, speaking of indie books, I am going to plug my Kickstarter, which I actually am going to do a little special offer for you guys. If you support The Dancer for issue 1, even for $1, I'll give you the trade of The Dancer digitally. So that's issues and The Dancer of Like Father, Like Daughter, my superhero book about a high school girl. Father left her, become a full-time superhero. Everyone in the world loves him except for her, and then she inherits his abilities. So you'll get the first 4 issues of that book for free digitally if you support The Dancer issue 2 at any level. And I should add, again, if you love comics, you love trying to find your new comic, your new favorite comic, and you want to read more indies, I have an indie bundle every campaign. If you support the book for $1, you will get close to 20 books for free. 20 indie books spanning from things that are published at the direct market to things that are just on Kickstarter. So I really try to have a wide range of genres there and different looking books. I truly believe you'll find your favorite. Now, The Dancer, she's a dancer/assassin. And when she was a child, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her and never dealt with that trauma until now. And it's kind of Batman dealt with his trauma. So if you want to twist on Batman, you think DC's doing too much Batman, check out The Dancer. See a different angle of it. But yeah, we have a lot of cool variant covers, and be awesome if you can support. All right, so that is the Kickstarter, and that's going on for another 15 days. So we're halfway through that campaign, which I am excited for. We have so many campaigns and so many things going on. All right, I'm going to post that link right here.
Yeah, if I could share Lisa's real quick.
Oh, of course, yeah. Do we have a date for that
yet? We are. I don't want to put the date out there yet, but it's very soon. We just want to make sure everything's together. But this is Bloom Pretty. It is a mature fantasy story of romance, obsession, murder, and plant people from an all-female creative team. Here's some of the art. These are character sketches. There's a panel from one of the pages. It will be full color. Still waiting on some of the colored pages to come through. But this is a landing page you can sign up to and read more information about it that's not on the pre-launch page. So I'm going to pop that link in there. But this is my wife's comic, and it is coming very soon. So keep watching my social media or at Last Number Press for more details on that.
Awesome. Also, I totally forgot about the Like Father, Like Daughter trade. The way you can get it is just to let me know you backed it and you watch this show. So you can message me on Twitter or message me on Kickstarter and let me know you watch Comic Book Weekly and you want the free book and you backed. So that's all I need to know. Any other information for Bloom Pretty you wanted to let the audience know, Brent?
They can go to there to sign up for the pre-launch page, bloompretycomic.com.
Very cool. Now we are going into the news for this week. We'll start with our media news since there's only one piece, and that is Dakota Johnson has been cast as Madam Web. This movie's still happening. I love Dakota Johnson, though. I just recently saw a movie. I literally got a ticket for Sundance, which was virtual this year because I wanted to watch this movie. It was a Tig Notaro movie, which I love her, and she's a great comedian, and Dakota Johnson was in it, and I like her, and I thought she was great. So I actually really like this news. I was like, oh, she's a cool actress. I think that's interesting. I know a lot of people were upset about the actor should have a disability, which I do agree with. That's something I didn't think about when I first heard the news because Madam Web is someone who is blind. So I think it would have been a better casting if they got somebody who actually was blind to play the character. But yeah, no, I don't know I still don't know what this movie looks like. I was surprised that they're also still moving forward with it.
Oh, go ahead, Brad.
No, go ahead.
Okay. It's kind of funny that this whole thing dropped, because I was talking to the guys at my comic shop about this before the news ever dropped. And I was telling them, I was like, they were talking about, oh, Madam Web should, they're going to eventually introduce a Madam Web. And I'm like, yeah, but are they going to introduce the old Madam Web, or are they going to introduce like Julia Carpenter Madam Web, right?
True.
And so,
Dakota Johnson definitely could be more Julia Carpenter.
Yeah,
that's
for
where
sure.
That's where I think that they were going with it. And I said to them, I was like, I think they're going to, if they do it, I was like, I think they're going to go in the Julia Carpenter route, and that she's going to be the Madam Web.
That would make more
if
sense.
they were to do it. And I was like, shit. I'm like, so 2 weeks later, I'm like, wow, this news dropped. And I'm like, they're not really descriptive on the movie itself and everything else yet. But I was like, but it's very possible that she could play Julia Carpenter as Madam Web, and maybe go into the history how maybe she was Spider-Woman.
Yeah. That would make a whole lot more sense, because Madam Web traditionally is very old too.
Yeah.
So that it's like there was a little disconnect with that casting for me. And I the only things I've ever seen Dakota Johnson is like, I'm looking through IMDb, and it's like really early stuff in her career. So like 21 Jump Street and The Social Network, I think they're the only things I've ever seen her in, which she wasn't the star of either. So yeah, I don't know much about the actress except for she was in 50 Shades, but yeah, it's fine. It's interesting. I want to see more news about this, more information about it before I make a judgment on it. But it's an odd thing to go forward with. Of all the characters in the Spider-Man corner of the universe, it's a little odd, but
I still don't even want to see Morbius, and that's definitely coming out at some point, and I don't want to see it. But I got that AMC stub, so I probably will. Sweet Exes asks, remind me who is Julia Carpenter? Just another Spider-Woman. I think that's the
Spider-Woman of like the 80s and maybe early 90s, West Coast Avengers.
Yeah, she first appeared in Secret Wars. I think issue 7. I think that's where it was, because I remember.
Go get your issue 7s. It might be a stack book now.
Instead of looking at the first appearance of Amazing Spider-Man with Madam Web, right, which I think is 181 if I remember correctly, Secret Wars issue 7 is the first issue of Spider-Woman and Julia Carpenter. So if they use Julia Carpenter as Madam Web, then you might want to spec on your Secret Wars book. So
if anyone sees the movie, we'll see.
Right. Yeah,
it's still a Sony movie.
If it comes out, once we find out the exact premise of it.
Yeah, I agree. All right,
there's
let's
Julia
get
Carpenter.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And it looks a lot more like Dakota Johnson then.
Yeah.
Unless they do a young Madam Web.
Right.
It's like an old school, like 1940s movie.
I loved Julia Carpenter. I know I've said that before, but I remember when I was a kid and I saw that sleek black Spider-Woman suit with that long hair. I'm like, I like this chick.
yeah, I did too.
She's so underrated. That's what I like about her. She's a very underrated character. She has a cool personality. All right, well, let's move on to some comic news. So we have Peter David doing a flashback Fantastic Four miniseries. It is for the, it's going to be Wolverine, Hulk, Ghost Rider, and Spider-Man for the new Fantastic Four. I'm glad Peter David's doing something different. I know he's been like doing the same books for a couple of years now. He had the Maestro stuff and he had the Spider-Man out of continuity stuff. So it's cool that he's doing Fantastic Four.
He's still
and X Factor way back.
Still doing the Hulk stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll continue it, but it's like it's interesting that he just keeps doing old school stuff though. You know, he's not really venturing into anything new.
That's all good though. I mean, I'm fine with that. Like if that's his wheelhouse now, that him telling these old stories, and there's an audience for that, obviously. Yeah. So just keep doing it, right?
Yeah. Now, as far as whether I'll pick it up or not, I don't know. I mean, like when that happened, it was cool and interesting and different when they took over as Fantastic Four, but I don't know that I need to go back and read more stories set in that timeline.
Yeah, I think I've read like 1 or 2 books way back in the day for that, but I don't know if I'll pick it up. All right,
I love how you said way back in the day. I know you were there
way
reading
back
it
in the day.
when it came out, Brant, but way
Oh,
back in
no.
the day for me.
Not then. Way back in the day in 2007, probably. All right, well, let's move on to Riverdale meets Archie. So this is a book that's happening. The only reason I want to talk about it is like it's cool that Archie's doing stuff again because it's been a while since they've been on hiatus, and it's a smart move. People, for some reason, are still watching Riverdale, so why not try to cater to that audience?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not surprising at all. Like that article said, they've crossed over with everybody under the sun at this point. So crossing over with themselves, just it's kind of a cash grab, but it's one that serves their audience completely and wholly because it's from both sides of that audience. So I think it could be interesting. Archie meeting him, broodier version of himself.
So the next thing we're going to talk about, because this is just weird, Justice League are going to become dinosaurs in a book. So we were talking about this in our group chat, and Mike's like, "Is this real?" I was like, "It's
Oh
real."
my God. I was like, this is the point of desperation. This is almost like Savage Spider-Man. Like I was like, why are all our heroes becoming mutant creatures, right? But I found out that who's doing this is Daniel Warren Johnson.
Stop calling me old, Cat. Sorry. Cat's calling me old in the comments.
Oh, it's
Brant answered Tevye. Tevye was saying, "Oh, who cares about Madam Web?" I'm like, "Well, who cared about Guardians?" And the Brant's like, "Well, I care about Guardians." I said, "Well, you're old." But go on, Mike.
So, was it Daniel Warren Johnson is the one that is actually doing some of this or all of it? I don't even know. So he's the one that did the Better A Bill series. From
okay, at least that's gonna be different.
I'm out.
Okay, you don't like him, right?
No.
You don't like the artwork, or you don't like the writing?
I hated the artwork, but I wasn't in love with the writing either.
Gotcha. Okay, I liked it. I like him. I liked the Better A Bill story. I thought it was good. He also did that series Murder Falcon in Image Comics. Right. I like that story as well. That was a great story.
I'm totally out.
And but dinosaurs, Justice League, like this is a stretch here, man. Definitely.
I mean, Marvel did apes. It's right.
Did anyone read that? I'm not gonna pick this up. I'm gonna
pick it up so I can talk to you guys about it.
Yeah, you'll let us know how it goes.
Yes.
I'm out. That was an interesting idea, though. But sometimes the craziest ideas do become cult favorites and cool books. I'm not knocking it. Exactly, Marvel Zombies and stuff like that. So I'm not knocking on it. We could just have fun with it. Maybe it'll actually be funny. Good. Exactly. It's just like, whoa.
Batman like as a dinosaur, like and he's still wearing the bat costume is just hilarious to me.
Exactly. He's got to keep his secret identity still, even as a dinosaur.
Of
course. So we have another news piece here. New Archer and Armstrong title is coming out. And Brant, I know you're a fan of Faith that's connected to that.
Yeah.
I was actually a big fan of the original, well, not the original, like back in the day, but when Valiant came back and they put out Archer and Armstrong, I really liked that series. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Fred Van Lente wrote that, at least at the beginning. And it was a really good story with two characters that couldn't be more different than they were partners. And that made everything about it. So I fell off of it for a while, and now they're coming back with Armstrong no longer being immortal, which I think is an interesting twist on the character because he's like this immortal, one of these 3 immortal brothers. So that changes the dynamic completely. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with these characters now.
So another thing is, which I didn't know if we knew or not. I mean, we didn't know the creative team, but Spider-Man 2099 is coming back as a miniseries. It's a miniseries. Steve Orlando's writing it, and there's going to be a couple artists on this title, it looks like. And they'll be connecting other 2099 stuff as well. I don't care about Spider-Man 2099, so I'm not going to get it. But
I think it's interesting that they're going into other characters now. Like
Yes.
we've seen a lot of Spider-Man 2099, but we haven't seen a whole lot of the other characters from that universe. So I'm really intrigued by that.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, before I get into it, I just want to say thank you for everyone that's watching the show tonight. We got a decent amount of viewers.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not breaking the internet, but we do have like 50 people watching for this late at night. That's pretty awesome. So thank you guys. And please give this stream a like so others know that it's out there so they can watch it post live. That really helps.
And we go live every single Tuesday. So this is not a rare occurrence. We do this every Tuesday. So hopefully you guys can check it out.
So my thoughts on 2099, like Brant said, they are exploring a couple different characters. I actually think I saw a video on this, and I think they're introducing a female Winter Soldier 2099. And then there is...
They had a Captain America.
There's somebody else
years ago
that I wanted to say that came out also. Yeah, I remember that in the Venom book. They showed the Captain America. I think that's
the Peter David Spider-Man 2009.
Right,
also had the Captain America. Way back.
You're right.
So I'll probably check it out.
Yeah, I hope they explore the X-Men from that era. I really like that X-Men team.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
So the two bigger news pieces this week, this literally was trending on Twitter. So I'm actually friends with this person. So I want to say congrats to David Pepose, who is now a Marvel writer, who I've known this for a couple of months. So it's cool to like hear it out loud and this is happening. So he's doing Savage Avengers and he has a really interesting team. It's garnered my interest. It's cool to see someone who was in the trenches like me and Brant, doing the Kickstarter stuff, doing the indie stuff, going to Marvel. And there's a cool lineup here. You have that Hulk character, the Hulkverine, the Wolverine Hulk character.
Yeah.
I think you still got Conan here. You got Cloak and Dagger, which is super interesting. You got Anti-Venom, the Black Knight, and then also Elektra. So I was like, all right, this is like a weird team in a good way. I'm definitely going to give it a shot. Even if David wasn't on it, Elektra interests me.
Elektra was on the team before, though. Wasn't she?
Was she?
I don't know.
In Savage?
I think she was, or maybe she once was. I don't know. I think
you're right. The first issue she was in, but I dropped it after the first issue.
Yeah, Cloak and Dagger intrigues me. I always liked them in a story. Conan, I could live without Conan. I wish they would move on from Conan, but I'll give it a shot. David, like you said, he does a lot of indie books. Somebody asked earlier about the indie books. He does a lot, so you can check out from a bunch of different companies and Kickstarter. So congrats to David for sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's cool to support somebody, especially that because that's a big deal. And looking at it at a comic perspective, like Conan, like I don't care about, but like you guys had already said, the other cast of characters seem pretty cool, and I want to see them work together as a team, right? And if you have not read Savage Avengers before, this gives you a chance to jump on board once again.
And going back to the David thing, what's interesting, like I don't think I would be like a journalist for comics. Now I know I've stepped away a bit more from that, but David gave me my first gig. I reviewed comics for Newsarama. Like before I started doing like the bigger stuff for Newsarama, I worked under David for years doing reviews. And then I started working with Chris in Newsarama doing more of like the features and the interviews after that. And after like doing a lot of Comic-Con coverage, but yeah, I worked with like David gave me my first like comic book journalism gig. So I've known him for such a long time. He's a cool dude. And he was also a comic journalist for such a long time. He was a crime journalist before this. So it's really cool just to see again, like people like us get a gig at Marvel and like get such a big gig at Marvel is really cool.
We got a super chat.
Yeah, if you want to read it, Brant, go for it.
New Type gives us another super chat. Thank you for that. Speaking of crises, does decades of continuity really alienate new readers? Isn't reboots and reset buttons can be just as confusing and convoluted? I mean, New 52 showed that it could be, yes.
Yeah, no, I think it depends on the writer. I think
Yeah.
you know what's so interesting? We talked about Saga last week, where Saga was new reader friendly, even though there's been 50 something issues. It's an independent book. They somehow made it just 2 pages, a couple of sentences just to describe what the book's about that we could just jump on. So I
Right.
think if you
Yeah.
got Nightwing's a great example of that. Like, it's obviously a very fan driven book, but I still feel like it's new reader friendly enough where if that's your first comic, you could jump straight in. It's
Absolutely.
the balancing act for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Kat. And I just feel like wherever your jumping point is, everybody starts at a different point on reading comics, right? So if you read your first issue of Wonder Woman and you knew nothing about her, right? It might seem a little bit confusing just because of the mythology of the character to begin with, right? But that's how you learn. So if you don't like Wonder Woman, then you're like, okay, well, let me try a Spider-Man comic. And that could be the story that you like. And then once you find out that you like that character, then you make that decision. Do I make that leap and go backwards and read the history of the character? Or do I just continue from this point forward? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I think it also depends on you as the person and like what you're trying to get out of comics. Like if you're
Right.
wanting something fresh and new and you don't want to be bogged down with all that continuity, yes, maybe it alienates you. Maybe you want those reset buttons and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're the other kind that, like Mike was saying, wants to dive into the history of a character and learn as much as you can. So it just really depends on you.
Yep.
But also, you could still be a very big Spider-Man fan. All 3 of us are very big Spider-Man fans. I don't know, but I don't think all of us have read every single Spider-Man book out there ever.
Yeah.
So, like, but we're still very big Spider-Man fans. We still know a lot about the characters. You learn as time goes on, too, as you read more.
I mean,
it's also, go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry. I as a Spider-Man fan, I've read pretty much every issue from like issue 300 and on, or maybe 298 from that McFarlane era. Have I read all the issues before that? Nope. And I'm not going to try. I've read certain stories, right? But I'm not going to sit there and go, you know what? I'm going to read from issue 1 all the way to this point. I don't need to, you know, it doesn't make me any less of a fan. I just don't need to read those issues. I know where he came from.
And even though, you know, we as fans kind of rag on, oh, do we need to hear Batman's origin again, Superman's, etc. That is something that comics does well, that they keep reminding people, you know, where these characters came from. And they keep retelling that because new people come in and don't want to wade through all that continuity. So that is something that is necessary if it's done in a way that's not like super repetitive. You know what I mean?
Look at Batman and Robin. It's a really easy, or Robin and Batman. It's a really easy 3-issue book where if you've never read a Batman and Robin book, or you don't really know much about Dick Grayson, and maybe the mainstream audience doesn't know as much about Dick than they do regular Batman, it's a great book to pick up. And it's like, but it was still so much fun for people who do know everything about Batman and Robin. It still was told so well. And again, it goes back. It's a balancing act. And if you're a good writer, it's like what Stan Lee said. It's like you know, you never know what will be the first issue for a reader. But I don't think it means that you should like hold their hand and be like, all right, guys, this is what comics are. Like, I like, because that's boring to the people that have been reading it for years.
Yeah.
And that's why now you can understand why they constantly do you know, creative team switches or new volumes, because they want these stories to be out there for people and to make it easier for them to pick up. That's why they do that now.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have our last topic here, which is Secret Evasion sequel. We talked about the DC side of doing the same thing over and over again. And now we have Marvel, where I feel like the one thing I'll say about Secret Evasion, and I feel a little better about, is that we actually haven't had a scroll series or story in a really long time. So I feel like, unlike Devil's Reign or even Civil War 2, I'm like, I've seen this before. It's been recent that I've seen this. This, I actually feel like we actually haven't seen much from the scrolls in a long time, and I don't mind revisiting it.
Yeah, I mean, there was that like that 5-issue miniseries a while back.
Yeah,
that
the
it was about that
Skrulls.
family.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which
And
we actually liked. So.
yeah,
Good.
and I feel like stuff like that planted the seeds for this. You know, it's like we'd see little sprinkles here and there if you look back, and like the in Fantastic Four, them getting the Skrull child, you know, and they're caring for him, and different things like that. It's like they're reminding you that, hey, the Skrulls are still out there. You know what I mean? So I like the way that they've kind of subtly built up to this, and because we haven't seen it in a while, and I really love the concept of Secret Invasion to begin with. And even though we didn't get as many big twists as maybe we would have liked to have gotten in that original story, maybe they could do that now. Maybe there's some bigger plan here that, you know, that I would love some big twist, like this major character that we've been following all this years is not who we think it is.
Oh yeah,
Stuff like
that would
that.
be pretty cool. Yeah, that would be pretty neat. I like every Marvel event. I always give it a try.
Yeah.
I pretty much read them no matter what, if they're good or bad.
You read all of them too. You don't
Yeah.
drop
Yeah.
it usually.
Yeah,
I
I
tend
don't
to
read
give
it.
it 1 issue or 2
Yeah,
and then I'll drop
no,
it.
I like them. Now, do I buy all the tie-ins? No, I stopped doing that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Unless it's like a Spider-Man event. But when it comes to these events, I like to try to read them all because I want to know what's going on in the universe, and I want to see if they try to improve on their events, you know, or if one's going to surprise you.
Yeah.
For sure. We did have a question. I think it was from Tavia. Why can't we have one created team for one book? You know, in a perfect reality, I would love that. We all would love that, but it's time and money. You know,
Yeah.
especially if it's like a sleeper hit, those people might not be paid as much as they like A-listers would be, and they sometimes jump off the book to get paid somewhere else for more bucks. I mean, look at the Substack stuff. That's exactly why Substack is happening, is for these creators to be paid more. And also, if you come from an artist perspective, schedules are really hard, especially if you're doing something like Amazing Spider-Man that's coming out 3 times a week. You'll never get one artist on that.
You'll never
Even a
get
monthly
that.
book is hard. Like, that's hard to get all those pages. Like, it takes a lot, depending on how, like, some artists are really fast, but even fast artists, like, you can't finish so many pages at the same time. It's hard.
It's also like if you compare this to like actors on a TV show, sometimes they get bored with the project. They've done this show for like 5 years and they want to move on and do something else, test themselves creatively. And I think it's the same for writers and artists. They want to do something different sometimes, and telling the same story for 10 years may not be in their best interest. So they move on. So there's a lot of reasons.
And that's all for the news, actually. So we are wrapped on that. And we'll start closing out the show. We had perfect timing on this one, guys. And thank you so much for
Forgot
everyone
about
sticking
the
throughout the
most
show.
anticipated, Kat.
Oh, I'm sorry. Most anticipated, because we went the other way this time. Most anticipated is next. And that after that, we're wrapping the show.
Yeah. All right. So most anticipated. So we've got our top 3 and we're going to go over those. So we'll start with Mike this time. What is your number 3, Mike?
My number 3 is, what do I have? Speaking of Peter David, we got Maestro World War M issue 1 that is getting ready to be released tomorrow. And I've enjoyed all the Maestro books. They've been a lot of fun, and it's just basically Maestro, you know, defending his land at this point. And it looks like this time around he's going to be going against the Abomination, which I'm really looking forward to. So this is just an extension of just really Maestro's origin tale. That's basically what this has been. So I'm really excited about that one.
Gotcha. And your number 2?
King of Spies issue 3. This one done by Mark Millar or Miller. I don't even know how to say his name.
I don't either.
You know, this book has been really good about the spy who has decided to retire, and then he's developed brain cancer. He's got a year to live, and he's decided that he's going to take down all the people that have screwed him over the years. We find out that his son is against him. So his son is out on a hunt for him, and he's winds up sending out this new, I don't know what it is. It's this brother and sister that are twins, but one has no arms and the other one has no legs, and they're attached at the back, and they just look like they're some pretty serious stuff. So I'm very interested in that book. It's really, really good.
Nice. Cool. And finally, your number 1.
Number 1 is Radiant Black issue 12. We get the continuation of this story, and we were talking about character development and what makes a good story. This is what Radiant Black really does well, and we're going to be learning about the Radiant Pink character, and we find out that in this issue, it looks like that she's a social media star, and she's got to put away all her troubles and all her worries and go on that camera and have that happy face. So I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about that character.
Also, we're leading into the Supermassive event very, very soon, and we have the new spin-offs coming up. So they're definitely building up to something, which is always cool. We love Radiant Black here.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, I don't know if you do or not, but there are different social media accounts for different characters in this universe. So there's a pink, there's a Radiant Pink Twitter account and different things like that. So if you go look it up, you can find all this, and they're talking from character perspective at times.
That's so fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've started following everyone that pops up. I'm like, okay, I've been following that one now. And
that's
just from an indie perspective. That's so cool. What Kyle Higgins has done in this past year, building a true superhero universe and just doing his thing.
And that's what he's doing. And that social media thing, like that's innovative. That's something that you just don't see. And my hat's off to him for being creative that way.
But also it shows what you can do when you're not under the thumb of a big company. And yes, you're at Image Comics, but Image, it just means that they're publishing it. Like that's your story and you can do whatever you want with it.
Right.
So it's really cool to see like a creator be creative and like do his own thing and build his own franchise and business. And it's so cool to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'll go to me next. My number 3 is Secret X-Men number 1. Just because of the team, I'm going to give this a shot. I don't know if I'm going to like it or not, but I mean, it's basically at least half like an X-Force team. You got Cannonball, Sunspot, and those characters. And there was a little blurb at the end of the solicitation for this that said, "Wait a minute, aren't these the guys that lost the election to be X-Men?" So I thought that was an interesting note that I kind of want to follow up on. So.
Is it a one-shot, Brant?
I don't know. Actually,
I feel like it is. I don't think there's an issue too.
Yeah,
it might be. So, well, I'm gonna read it either way. So
could lead into something else.
Absolutely. And then 7 Secrets number 14 is my number 2, and last issue was really solid. We hadn't seen it for a while, and that came back with a big punch. And so now we got the image of his death and how that's going to play out. And now I think this issue focuses on Kanto again and that whole thing. So I'm really looking forward to that.
It's picked up speed, luckily.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
there were a couple issues where like, oh, where's this going? And then, I agree. Last issue was really good.
Right. And then Radiant Black was also my number 1. So, Kat, your list.
So, my number 3 is Radiant Black, so we already talked about it. Number 2, Hawkeye Kate Bishop. Surprisingly, and I didn't love issue 1 and 2, but I really liked issue 3. I thought it hit its stride. Okay. I really liked the sister dynamic. So I was like, all right, I'm interested to see where this is going to go and if it continues to hit its stride. And then number 1, of course, 7 Secrets.
Nice. Very cool. So those are our most anticipated.
Fantastic. So we packed a lot in on this week's show, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed it. We appreciate all you guys joining this week, and hopefully you'll stay tuned for next week, and we'll have more great comic books to talk about, some awesome, hopefully big time news to talk about, as well as that's always the struggle every week. And guys, if you loved this stream, always remember, please give it a thumbs up. It's very important so other people can find it. And of course, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss the notification for the show. And if you have not subscribed to Comic Book Weekly, go ahead and subscribe over there, and also subscribe to my channel, which is Comic Book Corner 2.0. And the most important thing in this thing is our is our comic frontline social media, but we do have it on most of these. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, which is the one we probably use the least.
I've been stepping up the Instagram game lately for us. So
That's
Yeah,
true.
you?
So
Okay.
only follow Instagram. Oh, how often do you do the stream? Literally every Tuesday at 10:15, and we've
Yeah.
been good at being on time. So
Yes.
every Tuesday.
Yep, it's always this time, guys, and we've been doing it.
10 years.
10 years,
At least,
guys.
yeah.
10 years. It's been on a Tuesday night. It may have not been called Comic Book Weekly for as long, but we've been doing this together for a very long time. So we've gotten old on YouTube. So thank you so much for watching. So until next time, guys, have a great week. Happy New Comic Book Day officially, and we'll see you all next week. So take care, everyone.